housing accessibility and affordability is so important. It is something we're very much focused on. It is a conversation that we want to be part of. We want to see more access to home ownership. This program does not get us there.
President Biden made a last-minute change to his State of the Union address last March, committing to eliminate title insurance fees on certain federally backed mortgages. If implemented, this pledge threatens property rights, makes homeownership more risky, and undermines federalism by eroding state laws governing title insurance. Hi, I'm Karla Jones, Senior Director of Federalism, Homeland Security, and International Relations here at ALEC.
And I'm Brooklyn Roberts, Director of the Health and Human Services Task Force here at ALEC.
And as part of our Women's Leadership Series, we're joined by Elizabeth Blosser, Vice President of Government Relations at the American Land and Title Association, who's going to fill us in on how this change that Biden announced could affect homebuyers and the states. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here in your beautiful new office.
Tell us a little bit more about President Biden's announcement. I think it flew below the radar for most of us.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, the president did announce in his State of the Union that his administration was doing away with title insurance fees on federally backed mortgages. And obviously, that's an incredibly broad statement. What we know from FAQs that were released by FHFA that very same day is that there is a pilot program that allows Fannie Mae specifically to act as a title insurer on certain refinances. So as we understand it, the program uses some sort of an automated system to do a title review, and then a lender pays a fee to Fannie Mae in case there's any title defects down the road. And so really that is by definition title insurance under most state laws.
What is title insurance? What kind of protections does it provide?
Sure. So anytime you are buying a home or you are financing a property, you need to make sure that the title is clear. And so that means there's no liens or encumbrances. So for example, a tax bill that hasn't been paid or a mortgage that hasn't been paid off. You also have to ensure that the person financing the property or transferring the property has the authority to be able to do that. And so title professionals do research, they review the public record, and then they try and resolve any title issues that they may find prior to a closing. And then down the road, if there is an issue with the title or there is an unknown issue that comes up, you have title insurance to cover your defense costs, to cover any resolutions that may need to happen down the road if there is a claim. So that's kind of how title insurance works in the marketplace.
Well, process isn't everything, but it seems like a program this consequential would have gone through some kind of vetting process, a process, where stakeholders could identify any concerns or problems. Did this program go through that kind of process?
I'm glad you're bringing up process because process is incredibly important. And I would say transparency is really important as well. So last April, there was a new products rule that was implemented, and we don't feel that that rule was followed in this process, which is really unfortunate because had the rule been followed, there would have been the opportunity for those of us in the industry, state lawmakers, and regulators who oversee the business of insurance to be able to weigh in on the plan. And, really from a practical or common sense perspective, if you think about it, if there's something that's important enough to include in the State of the Union, it's probably important enough for there to be public notice and comment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. And my task force, Federalism and International Relations, comes at this from a federalism angle. Who's providing title insurance now? I'm guessing it's small businesses from across the country. And what is this going to do to states' ability to regulate this industry?
Yeah, so I'll break that down into two parts. And I'm really glad that you brought up the small business piece because small business is so important to our economy and it's really important to our local communities as well. The title insurance industry is over 90% small businesses. So those are businesses in your local community. And when we think about this pilot program, really it is shifting work from those local community businesses to the GSEs. So that's a really key aspect to be thinking about. Today the title insurance business employs 155,000 people across the country. Fun fact: almost 70% of those are women. So yeah.
So this is appropriate for the women's leadership.
It is. It's a very much a female-dominated industry. To your point, though, about regulation, certainly the business of regulating title insurance has long been the work of the states. And it is concerning when you look at this pilot program, again, from the information that we have available to us. It really seems that Fannie Mae is going to act as an unregulated title insurer. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are not currently licensed as insurance providers in any state. And so that brings up the question, under this program, are they going to completely skirt state insurance laws, which also are state consumer protection laws?
One of the things that really alarmed me is it seems like you're shifting risk from state-regulated title insurers to government-sponsored entities. What kind of government-sponsored entities would be tapped for this?
Yeah, so under state insurance laws, title insurance companies have to have a very significant amount of reserves. And the reason for that is tail risk. It's kind of interesting. In the title insurance business, we don't see a lot of claims come up right away. They tend to come up, between 3 to 8 years down the road. Generally speaking, we see about 50% of claims in the first 5 years. So we have significant reserves to address those claims. Obviously, the GSEs don't have those reserves, and so the question becomes, would the taxpayers be on the hook given they are under conservatorship? And that sort of brings us to this question of, is this the role of the GSEs? Currently their charter is to provide liquidity in the secondary market. It is not to compete with primary market participants, and especially given that they're under conservatorship.
So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the ones who brought us the 2008 financial crisis, they're the ones that are going to be assuming this risk?
Yeah, as we've discussed, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are in conservatorship as a result of the 2008 financial crisis. And when you think about the fact that they're taking on additional risk, it feels a lot like that time prior to the 2008 crisis when they took on additional risk. And obviously there was significant harm to homeowners. And once again, I think this puts consumers at risk, right? So I handle all of our consumer protection issues at Alta. So this is something that is very near and dear to my heart. And when you look at this pilot program, it's really putting consumers in an experimental claims process. So let's think about what that looks like. Unfortunately, right now, the real estate market is rife with fraud. We're seeing significant amounts of fraud, and that can happen in refinance as well. So you could have a situation where there's identity theft and somebody is impersonating someone to take a cash out refi. You can also have borrower fraud. So if a couple's going through a divorce and one member of the couple takes out a refi without the other one knowing. We see a lot of elder real estate fraud and financial exploitation. Again, somebody could be acting with a fraudulent power of attorney and they're taking money out of somebody else's property. Well, if somebody absconds with that money, what happens to the victims? Presumably, they have to call Fannie Mae. They have to convince somebody over there that they are a victim of fraud. and then they're going to have to negotiate some sort of resolution. And they're doing all of this outside of established state laws and consumer protections that would cover things like a timely claim process. So if you have a very convoluted process, it takes a lot of time. At best, consumers are losing equity in their home, and at worst, they're potentially losing their home. So it is a serious concern for consumers.
Is this doing anything to help housing affordability? That's the stated goal of this, right?
Yeah, and I want to say at the outset, housing accessibility and affordability is so important. It is something we're very much focused on. It is a conversation that we want to be part of. We want to see more access to home ownership. This program does not get us there. So first of all, it is limited to refinances. So it's not helping anybody who would like to get into a home for the first time or get into a property. Second, it is for low risk refinances. So likely that means that it's people who have a high credit score or potentially a lot of equity in their home. So it's also not helping the low-income homeowner.
And one of the things that struck me about this initiative is how bipartisan opposition to it seems to be. In a Congress that can't agree on what day of the week it is, everyone seems to agree that this is not a good thing. Are there differences between why Republicans and why Democrats don't like it, or are they united in why they don't like it?
Well, for some of the reasons we've discussed, this is an ill-conceived plan. But truly, home ownership, real estate, accessibility, and affordability is a bipartisan issue. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle you are on. Everybody wants to be able to see people achieve the American dream of home ownership. And so we're all working towards that. It's kind of interesting. What you need for home ownership and that realization is stability and certainty in the market. So if you buy a home and you go to your closing and it is one of the most exciting days of your life and you're getting the keys to your home, you're not thinking in the back of your head, oh, I wonder if I actually own this property. I wonder if I really have the title. And that is the certainty that title insurance plays, and certainly very important in the marketplace.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add to this today, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so, one of the things that's really concerning, especially when you're thinking about title insurance and the importance of it in the market, is there's this idea that you can somehow use technology and people can press a magic button and you can do away with title insurance. And, that is absolutely false. Our members spend so much time researching the record, making sure the title is clear before there is a transfer or financing of property. On average, our members spend 22 hours on each closing. If a residential real estate closing is complex, that number goes up to 45 hours. So they're really working every day to make sure that we're protecting people's property rights.
Well, thank you for joining us today. This is our first Women's Leader video series in our new office, and we appreciate it. I know you came a long way, and this is an issue that a lot of people aren't familiar with and may not be aware of. So we really appreciate you coming and filming this with us.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. It's been a great conversation.